I hope you've already watched the first video in this series of our videos on the top 3 lies you believe that keep you stuck, miserable, and unable to change. If you haven't watched it yet, please go there first so you can learn about lie number 1, which is, I'm not doing enough, or I have to do more and try harder. That one lie will keep you trapped in bowing to the fear of man and compulsive busyness. Also, in that video, I show you 3 reasons why you have bought into this lie and 3 strategies to begin to move out of it so that you can get unstuck, start to grow, and feel stronger and more stable inside. Thank you for being here to learn about the second lie we believe that keeps us stuck. Now, if you didn't watch the first video, let me just quickly introduce myself and give you a short context of why you should listen to me. But the longer version of my story will be in video 1, so I highly encourage you to go back and watch that first. But I'm Leslie Vernick. I'm a counselor, speaker, relationship coach, and the author of 7 books, including the best-selling books, The Emotionally Destructive Relationship and The Emotionally Destructive Marriage. Today, my life is way better than I would have ever imagined it would be as a kid. I grew up in a broken home where single-parent families were rare. My mom had a lot of problems. She drank too much and was often abusive, especially to me. I didn't fit in with my peers, and I was the girl who was always picked last for stuff. I felt small, ugly, and very unlovable. My dad finally got custody of us when I was 14, and I eventually came to Christ and wanted to serve him and honor him with my life. But inside, I was still stuck in a lot of lies that kept me miserable, depressed, and angry, and feeling a bit and sometimes a lot resentful that my life was so hard and so different from many of my peers. As an adult, I did not have a good relationship with my mom. She never came to my wedding, she never saw her first grandson born, nor did she ever invite my family to visit with her. And so even as a Christian, even as a Christian counselor, I wasn't quite sure how to navigate this relationship with my mother in a God-honoring way. Was I supposed to try harder and forgive and forget even though nothing changed and she was still hurting me with her verbal abuse? And how do you have an adult conversation with someone who's tearing you down or threatening you? But where I got stuck the most was in wanting my mom to change. You see, I believed a lie, that I didn't have enough, that I needed more. I needed my mother, with a big capital N, to treat me better. I needed my mom to respect me, even to be interested in my life and my family and my kids. After all I had been through, I deserved at least that much, didn't I? Recently, I received an email from a woman who wrote this. She said, my spouse is very negative and he's never happy with his life. He's constantly having a pity party for himself. She said, he's a Christian, but he's unhappy with everything and he's always complaining about what he doesn't have. Indeed, her husband is unhappy. But it's important to know that it's not what's happening in his outer life that's his main problem, nor was it in mine. It's his internal attitude. It's the way he habitually thinks about life and responds when he doesn't get what he wants or what he feels he deserves. You see, when nothing is right on the inside, then nothing is right on the outside. And so if we want to be healthy, it's important that we expose the lies we tell ourselves, because much of our continued misery is a direct result of these wrong thinking habits. And it's only when we wake up and see something for what it really is that we're then able to challenge it and work toward changing it. So this lie, I'm not getting enough or I deserve more, is a huge problem in our culture today. Listen to the commercials on TV. Most every single one of them end with the phrase, you deserve more, you deserve it. And it may be a shock to realize this truth, but we don't deserve or are entitled to anything except perhaps hell. But because we believe we're entitled, we stay miserable because we're not getting enough. Let me tell you about Sarah. She was always upset about something. Why? Well, because most of Sarah's friends and family didn't love her or support her as faithfully as she thought they should. Her job didn't satisfy her, nor did it pay enough, and people there weren't very friendly either. Sarah's mom also disappointed her. She described her mom as just too busy living her own life to care that me, as a single mom, often needed help with my kids. Sarah's mom wasn't helping her enough. Sarah stopped going to church because she didn't get anything out of it, and no one bothered to invite her out anyway, so why go? Now, Sarah wasn't clinically depressed, but she was chronically miserable. If it wasn't one thing, it was another. Nothing was ever the way she wanted it to be, or the way Sarah thought it should be. Now, perhaps your feelings are not as extreme as Sarah's, but I think we can all relate. Life does disappoint us at times. Other people don't give us all the love or attention or respect that we want. And as a result, we often do feel hurt, sad, angry, and sometimes resentful. We all get stuck in living with this mindset. If only I had more, then I'd be happy. Take a minute, fill it in. What might you put in that blank? Maybe you tell yourself, if only I had more money or more time or more affection. Then I'd be happy. This week I received an email from a woman who's battling infertility, and I bet if she had this blank, she'd say, if only I got pregnant and had a baby, then I'd be so happy. Or maybe you say, if only I had a good marriage, a loving husband. I said, if only I had a mother who cared, then I wouldn't be so miserable. Now don't get me wrong, I'm all for making changes, where possible and appropriate. But I've discovered in my own life, as well as in the lives of hundreds of people I worked with, that much of our misery is caused by the internal beliefs we tell ourselves about how things should be, rather than learning to live graciously and contentedly with what actually is. Like Sarah and the negative husband and me, we tell ourselves that our unhappiness is because life or other people are not giving us what we want or what we need. They're not treating us as we think they should. And hear me, we might be right. But these difficult situations, as real and painful as they are not the true source of our greatest suffering. Our greater suffering or miserableness comes from our storyline about how life should go, what people should do or give us, what God should do for us. And when they fail to live up to our scripted scripts of what they should do for us, we get stuck, never recognizing that the source of our misery is in our own lie. I deserve more and I don't have enough. Perhaps you're getting stuck right now thinking, what's wrong with wanting your husband to be faithful? Or what's wrong with wanting your mother to help you out? What's wrong with wanting a baby or wanting to be loved? There is nothing wrong with you desiring these things. But when you begin to demand these things and feel you deserve these things, then you will continue to feel miserable when you don't get everything you believe you deserve. The truth is, no one ever gets everything in life that she wants or desires. But when we live as if we deserve people's love and attention all of the time, then we're not living in truth or reality. It is not unreasonable that we want those things. But given my mother or your particular husband, it may be unrealistic to expect those things. But instead of learning how to handle the inevitable disappointments of not getting all that we want, we stay angry and miserable and resentful. Whether our expectations are unrealistic, unhealthy, or just unmet, we become miserable people when we believe that we're entitled to have more than we have, instead of feeling thankful for what we do have. Instead, we grumble and complain about what we don't have. The Apostle Paul told us that he had discovered the secret of being content, whether he had a lot or a little. What's the secret? It's surrendering to God's plan and God's will, not getting all your needs, wants, desires, or expectations fulfilled. And therefore, to be healthy, sometimes we have to let them go. Our well-being cannot depend on another human being giving us something they are incapable or unwilling to give us. Our well-being must be dependent only on God, because he knows what we need and loves us completely. Peter writes to us in 2 Peter 1 these words. He says, God has given you everything you need for living a godly life. And we've received all of this by coming to know him, the one who called us to himself by means of his marvelous glory and excellence. And because of his glory and excellence, he has given us great and precious promises. And these are the promises that enable you to share his divine nature, become like him, and escape the world's corruption caused by human desires. In view of this, Peter says, make every effort to respond to God's promises and supplement your faith with the generous provision of moral excellence, and moral excellence with knowledge, and knowledge with self-control, and self-control with patient endurance. Can you see those muscles building? And patient endurance with godliness, and godliness with brotherly affection, and brotherly affection with love for everyone. Peter says, the more you grow like this, the more productive and useful you will be in your knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. Who doesn't want that? I do, and I know you do too. But Peter warns us, but those who fail to develop in this way are short-sighted or blind. They've forgotten that they've been cleansed from their old sins. Remembering who we are a dependent creature. We're sinners. We don't deserve anything, yet we have been given so much. We've been loved and redeemed and forgiven. We've been given a new identity. We've been adopted by God. We've been placed in his family, seen as holy. We have an inheritance, a purpose that matters for all of eternity. If that's true, wouldn't we be grateful, thankful, amazed, humble? We wouldn't be so miserable or feeling angry that we were not getting more or enough. We've been given so much more than we deserve. It shifts our mindset and we see everything differently, don't we? Now, please don't misunderstand. Wanting things to be different is not wrong. And if we have the power to change things, do it. But we don't have the power to change other people, and some things are not going to change. And if we want to stay out of the pit of despair and misery, we need to learn how to surrender our legitimate desires to God's bigger plan. And so I'd like to close with a prayer surrender I use when I find I'm not getting what I want. It's what I have found helpful to me in the moment. And I pray it right when my emotional anguish is at its highest, because that's my red flag, that my desires are out of order and I'm starting to turn them into demands. So let me pray it with you today. When you're aware that your heart is starting to be attached to something more than God, you pray this surrender. Lord, I want, what do you want? Fill in the blank with what you desire. I want that baby. I want my husband to love me. I want my mother to love me. And I'm aware that my body's getting tense and my heart is getting gripped with worry or anger or hurt, whatever emotion you're experiencing in the moment, that I'm not going to get what I want. Right now, I surrender my desire for control over this. I can't control my mother. I can't control if my husband loves me. I can't control how fast the traffic moves. I can't control these things. And so I surrender my desire for power and control over these things to you because you are in control. I surrender my desire for approval and love and affirmation. I want my husband to love me. I want people to like me at work. But I surrender my demand for these things. I choose to trust you for my value and my worth. Lord, I surrender my desire for security and comfort. I don't know what will happen in this marriage, but I trust that you love me and are in control. As Jesus prayed, ultimately, Lord, not my will, but yours be done. Now, in our next video, we will learn the third lie that keeps us feeling not only miserable, but feeling as if sometimes we want to die. And that lie is, I'm never enough. In other words, there is something so fundamentally wrong with me, something so bad about me, that I am flawed and damaged. Other people can be forgiven, but not me. Other people can be loved, but not me. Other people can be whole and change, but not me. This lie is huge, and it must be addressed because deep down so many people are captured by it. So watch your email box in the next few days. Until next time.